Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Monday, November the 7th, City of Lebanon Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. We have a roll call, please.
Okay, Chad Kiger,
Here.
Bruce Polly,
Here.
Ron Edwards,
Here.
Lori Gross. Here.
Everybody here tonight. The minutes, everybody's got a copy of the minutes. If there's any issues, bring it up. If not, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting minutes are approved. Next item of business will be next year's Board of Zoning Appeals calendar. Does anybody have any problems with it?
I make a motion, we approve the 2023 calendar.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The 23 calendar is approved as written. We have one item tonight that is docket number 2271. That's Priority Fence LLC for All Fleet Services. The property is located at 2655 South Lebanon Road here in Lebanon. Old 52. Property is zoned single-family residential and comprised of 4.45 acres. The lot configuration is approximately 350 feet by 500 feet. Mr. Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Pauly. Board members, before you tonight is a variance request for a fence installation. A little bit of history on this site if they want to pull this up. As Mr. Pauly mentioned, this is zoned single-family residential. This is in an area, the annexation area the city did back in about 2007, 2008. Everything was brought in under a default SF zoning district, but this fleet services use has been there for 10 plus years. So it's a legally existing non-conforming use out on this parcel, but they are doing some additional services out here and expanding what they're doing, and they're having some security issues out here. There are some catalytic converters missing and some other damage being done on the property. So trying to get some additional security out here on the site. What they're proposing to do, and this will give you a little bit of view of the site, the dash line represents what would be a 6-foot tall wood privacy fence that they're looking to establish around the entire perimeter of the property to provide that security with a roller gate that comes off of County Road 250 East here on the east end of the property. So that just gives you a rough idea what they're looking to do. In terms of what it would look like, it's what you would expect from a wood privacy fence. This is an image just showing you generally what that fence would look like around that property, and that's what they're proposing to do. As I mentioned, this is a fence variance because they are looking to put a 6-foot privacy fence that is technically located within the front yard on the property, which means anything closer to the street than the building. Those fences are limited to 48 inches in height and need to also be 50% opaque. So because they're putting a 6-foot tall privacy fence technically in the front yard, they require a variance for the height and opacity. So that's the request is for you here tonight. They are looking to keep it a certain distance off of Indianapolis Road, and in our conditions of approval, we did have some specific distances with them to keep to essentially allow for potential future right-of-way if that road was ever needing to be improved. We want to make sure we don't allow a fence now in what could be future right-of-way that we might need. So there are some conditions on that, but otherwise this is essentially a perimeter security fence around this property. So with that then, we do have the 3 findings of fact that are provided in the staff report. The first, the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. While a portion of this fence will be located within the front yard along Indianapolis Road and 250 East, its physical location will be set back in a manner to maintain visibility intersection. We want to certainly make sure that there is no visibility issues at that intersection at 250 East and Indianapolis Road, and we are making sure that it's set back sufficiently to be able to do that. The second, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. And the use and value of the area will not be affected. The fence is constructed of quality materials, and its location in no way inhibits the expected use of any adjacent property. Staff is also proposing to soften the side of the fence with plantings and additional trees along the Indianapolis Road frontage. And then number 3, the strict application of the terms of the UDO will result in practical difficulties. And strict application will result in practical difficulties. The only manner by which the applicant provides security to their property is to allow increased fence height within the front yard area. Staff is proposing to set back the fence from the road a sufficient distance to allow for future right-of-way acquisition according to the thoroughfare plan and provide for landscape area outside the fence along Indianapolis Road. So with that then, we have recommended approval of the variance request to permit a 6-foot tall privacy fence in a front yard, subject to the following conditions. As I mentioned, in terms of the setback, we have recommended that the fence location be set back a minimum of 45 feet from the edge of pavement along both Indianapolis Road and 250 East. As I looked at the thoroughfare plan, this would more than accommodate any potential future right-of-way when that road is expanded, plus a certain setback from that for future right-of-way. So since there are no right-of-way exists right now other than just a parent right-of-way for the edge of pavement, we did that dimension off of the edge of pavement to provide for that. So 45 feet from the edge of pavement on Indianapolis Road and 250 East. And the second, again, as I mentioned, softening of that fence along Indianapolis Road, we have recommended that the applicant install 6-foot tall evergreen trees along the Indianapolis Road frontage between the fence and the street at a rate of 1 tree every 30 feet. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have one question, Ben. In that plat that you had up along Indianapolis Road, the dotted line, well, I guess it's along the north boundary also, is set back, whatever that footage is. Do they have to be 3 feet off of
Yes.
all the way around?
So on non-residential fences, it's the same requirement we have for residential fences. It could either be located on the property line with permission of the adjacent property owner or 3 feet off of the property line, minimum of 3 feet off the property line. So that's what our requirements to say for either residential or non-residential fences.
Ben, I have a question. You go back to the picture on, the picture, not the drawing.
Of the fence itself?
I think the aerial map.
No, the
Oh, the
arrow
arrow,
on
yes.
this, Ben.
Yeah. Yep, sorry, yeah.
Okay, see the mound of dirt right there?
Yes.
Is the fence going to be on that?
I'll let them, I believe they're actually going to be removing the mound, but I'll let the applicant answer that question.
Okay.
And I've got a question. Are there any differences in build quality or required materials across the different zoning classifications? So considering this as a legal non-conforming in an SF1, would fence requirements be different for an SF1 zone versus industrial or commercial?
They are, the non-residential zoning districts allow additional height, so it could be up to 8 feet tall in a non-residential zoning district for non-residential use. The material types are generally similar, although in a non-residential district, it also talks about like stone or brick walls, which you typically wouldn't see in a residential area, so it talks about some of those additional material types.
Okay. Because this reminds me of kind of a privacy fence that you would see in a residential area.
It is.
Not
yes.
necessarily one that would provide very much security, but I guess you can answer maybe those questions. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, have anything more for me before the applicant?
Any other questions? Good. Thank you, Ben.
Yep.
Okay, now, it's your turn. I need you to come up to stand up.
Sorry. I am Jared Hogan, Priority Fence, representing All Fleet Services. If this does get approved, I will be the one on site doing the project. Back to your question, sir, that is or was a mound of dirt. I was just by there on the way here, and they are getting rid of that mound of dirt. When I talked with Ben initially, when we started talking about all this, they were trying to figure out if we could go on top of the berm, and I said, no, nobody's gonna let you go on top of that berm. So then we talked about, when I started the process, one of the things that could have possibly taken place is if the berm was left, you guys would want the fence on the inside of the berm. And I just told them that wouldn't be a good aesthetic, driving by the property. So they're in the middle of removing that dirt now, so there will be no dirt berm. I would say by the end of the week, all the dirt's gonna be gone. Does that answer your question?
Sure, thank you.
You're welcome. And sir, you were asking about just the different kinds of materials?
Yeah,
So we have, a lot of times on commercial properties, we've done 6-foot privacy, 8-foot privacy, chain link with a lot of places, depending on what town you're in. If you do chain link, you've got to do privacy slats that they weave down and in and out of the chain link, or you can do like a windscreen. Out there, like a windscreen, I tried to, when we talked about the project, we were trying to think about different options on materials like chain link. I had told them if you're gonna do chain link, you probably need to do some barbed wire, because the chain link, granted, you can get over privacy, but chain link is more apt to somebody, you know, from the outside to climb it than they are privacy, because it's flat on the outside. But yes, there are different kinds of materials. They actually make a composite, and it looks like the noise barrier walls you see out on the interstate. They actually make a 6-foot composite fence that is, it's not as heavy duty or thick as those the sound barrier walls. And it kind of looks like, it's made out of the same as like like you would see a 6-foot privacy white vinyl or white PVC fence in a residential area. So there are different kinds of materials. We sell a lot of what the picture showed, because what I tell my customers, especially with them and the location, and the owner is really big on looks and aesthetics. So that's what he's trying to do, is get this fence up, because they've been having problems with stuff stolen, especially Cadillac converters off their big trucks. And then he was gonna stain it. And I don't know what the rules are. I haven't really looked that deep into it about, you know, what color stains, but it's not gonna be, you know, it wouldn't be something that's like a purple or anything real broad spectrum. And I only suggested that because of the longevity. I mean, you can, if you stain something or water seal it, it's gonna last longer than if you just put it up and, you know, never touch it.
I was just curious, those panel fences are not very secure.
Well, so that's another thing. We don't use panels. We stick build everything. So we use the 5/8 thick pickets, and we use 2x4s or 3 horizontal 2x4s. And we use, like on this, we would use 4x4s, 4x4x8s. The pre-built panels, I ran into an issue with those one time, and I'll never touch them again.
Yeah.
Just because we don't construct them, we just screw them onto the post, and that's that. So they're like, the warranty wise is just, there is none.
Is, they're going to be, have they brought up about barbed wire on top or anything?
Has who, I'm sorry?
Has the owner?
No, the only time that I had brought that up is in the early stages, because they had called and said they were having problems. And I told them, if you do chain link, I would do, and I didn't know what the codes or anything was at the time. I was just talking from past experience. I told them, if you do chain link, you need to do the 45 barbs out, because you can't climb them. So that's the only thing. Like with the privacy fence, no, I mean, you wouldn't put nothing at the top of it. Is that what you're asking?
Basically, no, yes, that was the question.
Okay.
But my second question then is, you said that you were gonna use 4x4s, 8 foot.
Correct.
I'm in construction, so I would think that last Saturday, there have been a lot of it gone down with an 8-foot post versus something deeper. Because you're only going in the ground 2 foot, 30 inches, something like that.
Yeah, so the pickets, the way we build them, the pickets are 6 to 8 inches above the top of the 2x4, which would be relatively the top of the post. So we try to go 30 inches, 32 inches.
Okay.
But if you think something different, you know, would need to be done, or if
You're
you.
the fence man.
No, I know, I just want to do what makes you guys happy.
No, I've just brought that up.
Yeah, so, and that's another thing, a lot of the stuff, I went and looked at a repair today that blew down on Saturday, and I had repaired it twice before, and I mean, the fence has been there, she said, like 27 years. but they were panels. So the panels are just blowing apart because they're poorly made. And hers is 8 foot. And that's another thing, like out here, they had asked about 8 foot, and I was like, it's a high wind area out there right now because it's just fields. Maybe once it develops, it's not gonna be as high, high wind area. But I said, I always told them, that's a maybe. You need to think about, now in the near future, we're not gonna guess, hey, is something gonna be built out here? Should we do something different? But even the 8 foot, it catches, I try to tell people that if you do 8 foot, and you would probably agree, you would want to use 6x6s instead of 4x4s.
Yeah. Great. Any other questions?
Good.
Okay, you got a question?
I'm good.
I got one for Ben before I open it to the public. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, thank you all.
How do we assure that if boards or panels, whatever, come off, that, is there any way to assure that put back up in a timely manner?
Yeah, the ordinance doesn't necessarily have any sort of standards for maintenance, but, in terms of conditions for approval, obviously the fence type is what's being approved here. So, other than just doing regular inspections, and I say regular, it would be like once a year, once every couple of years, that would be really what we would do, is just do some informal, regular inspections to make sure it's being maintained.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Ben? Okay, then, this time, I'll open it to the public. Any questions or comments? Seeing there's nobody stepping forward, we'll close the public end of the hearing. And if there's no further questions, would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the development standard variance request to permit a 6-foot tall fence located in a front yard, subject to the following conditions. Fence location would be set back a minimum of 45 feet from the edge of the pavement, and the applicant would install 6-foot tall evergreen trees along the Indianapolis Road frontage.
I'll second.
Wasn't there something about evergreens in that as, you
She
just
just
said that,
mentioned
okay,
that.
sorry.
Okay,
Apologize, Laura.
Kelly?
Chad Kiger,
All right,
Bruce Pauly,
Aye.
Ron Edwards,
Aye.
Lori Gross.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Congratulations, good luck. Thank you. I think, unless there's any other items that need to be discussed, the next meeting will be December the 5th, 7 PM right here.
I make a motion, we adjourn until the December 5th meeting.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned.